This is the Doing Customer Experience Right show. So let me bring this back for a second. What does doing it right mean to you?
Doing it right starts, in my mind, with one metric. This is the only metric I'll mention here. Customer lifetime value. What is it? It's how much revenue, how much money or profit you're going to get from a customer over their lifetime, over their relationship with you.
What do you want people to remember? What's the key takeaway?
The key takeaway is that oftentimes technology separates us from our customers. I want them to remember that the relationships and what you already know with your customers is enough. It's requiring technology to be obligated to those needs, not the other way around.
Hello, Neil. Welcome to the DoingCXRight show.
Stacy, thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to talk about your book because I believe so many of my listeners are going to really want to know so much, and I have you to dig into. So let's start first about who are you, Neil? What do you do for a living?
I have no idea. What I do changes. What I love, I've found, is very constant. Just as you said in that introduction, I love understanding how customer relationships are developed. I love it in the in-person type of sense, is to when you look at restaurants and hospitality. And I found such a huge opportunity more than a decade and a half ago with digital, because a lot of companies, and even still today, don't really understand who their customers are. Now, it's not to say they don't have a spreadsheet or a CRM system or Google Analytics where they're measuring all this stuff going on, but the language is different. They talk about, in the old days, hits and clicks, and now it becomes conversions and ROI. And so, it's amazing to me that you could have 10,000 people come to your website and it's distilled down to be like, well, 3% of them bought something. Let's see if we can get it to 4%. And there's this huge opportunity that just captures my interest and my attention every day in different ways to say, no, that was out of 100 people, those were 97 people that left unsatisfied with your products or your experience. Or maybe they left very satisfied, just you didn't measure them in the right way. And how do we make this language real? And how do we actually convert it to something that can be understood, that can be measured, that you can make business decisions about, even though you're not witnessing those people as they would come into a real store?
Yes. And is this correlated to the work you're doing at Google?
It's closely correlated. So there was never a point where Google said, Neil, pay attention to customer relationships. Instead, they came to me and they said, Neil, help us help our customers, our advertisers, so about 16,000 large companies around the world, help them make better decisions, help them grow. And you get to look at that from a very broad lens to say, well, is this better systems? Is it hiring better people? And time again, it came down to, no, better relationships with their customers will have a larger impact on their bottom line than anything else they can do. And so you learn about it from that lens to say, let's talk to companies about what they're currently doing. Let's talk to their customers. Let's look at their data. And time again, you just see these missed opportunities because everyone's focused on their dashboards and not the relationships and experiences they're driving with these people.
Yeah. Before we dig deeper into that, I want the audience to get to know something about you. What's a fun fact that maybe people don't know?
A fun fact. I'll tell people this. They often think they're like, data person, right? In my previous title at Google, I was a chief measurement strategist at Google until they made it broader. And immediately a lot of people are like, well, they respect data. Data's important. We love data. But data's too hard and data's too complicated. And a lot of people are surprised to find out I don't actually have a formal data background. I'm just a business person, an entrepreneur at heart, which just learned enough about data to make it real for everybody else that when the data conversations come up, they sit on the sidelines thinking they're too technical, they're too complicated. And so a lot of my background, which people find surprising, is I fashion myself more as a storyteller, a person to connect dots and experiences, than a researcher, than a modeler, than a statistician. And so hopefully that will come out in the conversation. We'll make these ideas accessible to people instead of the complications that usually come with them.
Very well said. And that's true CX style. We make it effortless. We make it easy. So you're right in line with what I believe. So, all right, the problem. What is the core problem that you see people and companies struggling with that made you write this book, Converted?
All right, I'll go back even further than the book itself. The very first web analytics tools, these are the tools that we could use to understand customers that are behaving with our website. They weren't built from a customer need. They weren't built from a business perspective. They were built from an engineering perspective. I met a whole bunch of these engineers and they said, this is what we could measure, and we're just going to put it in a dashboard, and then the business people will have to make sense of it. And so when the business people had it, they were really given the language by which they were supposed to understand their customers. And guess what? Customers wasn't a term. Customers were called clicks and hits. It almost in the same way you go in a retail store and be like, and here's how many people physically looked at your product or picked it up. You'd be like, that's arbitrary. Why are we building a business? And there was no critical thought. And so part of the motivation from the book was to say, what if we change the language? Instead of saying, here's what we do with our dashboards and our tools, let's start with the basics. You have customers. How should we look at those customers if we started from a clean sheet of paper? What would be the right way? And can we tie that, and this is what makes it accessible, could we tie it to something that's already very human? And I say that in the lens that whereas a lot of people will come to me and say, I don't understand data and analytics, the same people are saying, I'm very comfortable, though, building relationships with people. And I say, okay, well, let's start from that. Let's say a consumer, let's say somebody walks into your physical store. What do you do to that? How do you greet them? And let's say then, and this is actually an example early on in the book, let's say you're running a shoe store and a woman comes in and looks at a pair of heels and then she leaves. And then she comes back a second time and then leaves without buying anything. A third time, a fourth time. And actually one of the examples I have in the book is a real case where a woman came to a shoe website 200 plus times before deciding to buy. And I said, say somebody did that in your physical store, what would you do? I say, well, different questions, maybe different incentives, or maybe I'm a little bit glass half empty. I'd ignore her altogether. I say, good. Let's carry that over to your website. Somebody comes to your website 200 times. Are you personalizing the message to them? Are you giving them a different price promotion? Are you stopping marketing to these people? Or, a bigger question the book poses, what happens if she comes back again? What are you going to do differently? And when I talk to business people, they can come up with a whole list. These are the things I should be doing. I say, congratulations, we've taken the first step towards better measurement, which is starting with how you treat these customers in person and letting the numbers wrap around that instead of saying, here's a dashboard I'm given. And so that's the entire thing. The entire thing is just giving people room to get rid of all these metrics and CRM systems and saying, let's go back to this very human example. If your website was a place, what experience would you deliver? And how can you translate that to your website in the exact same way?
Yes, and having worked at some big companies and in the e-commerce department, we would just keep retargeting, keep sending those ads on the web, on social media. There was no rhyme or reason other than just to get them back, but they're doing what you're describing. They're just coming back and poking around, and nobody's using those insights to develop a relationship.
Nothing. They leave it there. And again, very personal. It's like, I really want to get to know this person. They called me up one time, or maybe we went to dinner one time. And then what are you going to do? I'm going to continually send them flowers. Be like, okay, and then? Well, no, that's just what we do. If they show any interest in me, I will send them flowers for the next 4 days. And you may laugh at the absurdity of that. And that's the absurdity of a lot of these campaigns that people send out. It's like, I'm going to hold on to you. Please, please love me. And I'll tell you, and just so you can get a sense, and this is more for the listener here, about where this goes. A lot of companies spend a lot of money on people that will never love them. I almost joke. I say, you're a hopeless customer romantic. You're like, if only more time, more experience, more love. And that breaks to desperation. And here's where desperation falls in. This is the final piece of the cycle. Then we'll go deeper on it. It's they're like, I've been sending all these ads, all these flowers to these customers, and nobody's returning my calls. I know what I'll do. I'll give everybody a coupon. I'll give everybody 20% off, and they send it to the poor customers as well as the good customers, and they hemorrhage margin, but they're just like, oh, they came back. And I was like, yeah, they came back because you're losing so much money, they'll come back. And if you say this is a way you're going to live like this, I was like, this woman only likes me because I spend a lot of money on her. You'd be like, that is a horrible relationship. And I'm like, congratulations, welcome to the status quo of retail.
Okay, going back on love for a second. I have noticed, seen, researched, experienced that companies will do everything they can to show their love, to acquire new customers, but they forget to love the ones they have. Loyalty, it's just overlooked. And I scratch my head all the time and say, but why? Why are you not investing more in those that you have versus, going to get new? Explain that. Like, is that just not sexy?
Well, so here's the thing. First of all, structurally, acquisition and loyalty are two entirely different areas. Or acquisition and new customers are a foreign concept altogether. It's not a new customer, it's a sale. And the fact that they're a new CRM record is just kind of neat, which explains for a lot of these companies why they shoot out these things to be like, and if you're a new customer, 20% off. And then I think I had this conversation with a large hotel chain. I'm like, I exist in your CRM database at least as 8 separate customers, because if you're going to give me a coupon code, that is easy. It is easier for me to create a fake email address than it is for me to pay you full price. But let's talk a little bit about the loyalty piece, because I think it's important. In my opinion, where loyalty goes astray from an ROI side is that it's not incremental to a number of businesses. And I'll explain why. For most loyalty programs that I witness, and most, I mean 90%, they're structured as bulk discounts, volume buys. Airlines are a great example. Neil, thank you for flying with us 10 times this year. Here's a free seat. Fly 10 times, get one free. That is what airline loyalty programs are. United does this, American does this. And I tell them, I'm not loyal to you at all. It just so happens, United, you're the only ones that go on the route that I need to take. And so unless I want to go out of my way to go to a different airport, I'm stuck flying with you. But if another carrier comes in, I am gone just as quickly. But if you want to offer me that free seat, I'm happy to take it. But the important part of any loyalty program, what we need to ask is, did it change customer behavior? So if somebody loves you, all right, if somebody loves you and they're happy with you and they're not going anywhere and they're going to buy from your store every month, if you were to give them a coupon code, it may make you feel better and you may say that's a loyalty program, but if it's not changing their behavior, then there's no incrementality in that loyalty program, and companies struggle with that.
Yes, very well said. Now, look, this is the Doing Customer Experience Right show. So let me bring this back for a second. What does doing it right mean to you?
Doing it right starts, in my mind, with one metric. This is the only metric I'll mention here. Customer lifetime value. What is it? The official definition is it's a lifetime value. It's how much revenue, how much money, your profit you're going to get from a customer over their lifetime, over their relationship with you. I will simplify it even further. All right? Take a look at all the people you've met in the past week or that you've talked to. My guess is some people will be great friends, family members, people who are going to have an impact on your life, may have already had an impact on your life, and you see those relationships as giving a lot back to your reason for being on this earth. You can write those people. They're few and far between, but you know who they are. Then there's going to be transactional people. I'm going to go to Chipotle. They're going to have a great person behind that's going to fix a burrito. I'm going to go on an Uber, great driver. Fantastic people. I'm never going to see them again. Now, intuitively, we know where those relationships fit. We have that internal hierarchy. We may not define it, but we know. Close friend, they call up. I want to see how things are going, how they're doing. Transactional. I'm happy with this moment. I'll never see them again. Customer lifetime value is the way that you quantify that for all of your customers. So instead of going through that list and saying, well, Neil's a good customer, Stacy, even better, lifetime value does it for you. It says, how long are these customers going to be around? How long are they going to be in your life? and how much value are they going to give to you? In a very quantitative sense, because in our personal life, it's by advice and friendship. In a business context, it's by money. How much money am I going to get from these people, and how much time are they going to cost me? And so where it all comes together is by having this metric, you can look through your list of customers and you can say, these are the people I need to pay attention to. These are the people that are going to leave. And as soon as you know that, you can start making better decisions. And so you're thinking, if I go to you and I say, Stacy, this customer is not going to love you no matter how much you try, I would hope you would say, okay, that's fine. If they want to come back, I'll sell them my stuff, but I'm not going to move mountains for them because there's nothing there. Or I may say, Stacy, these are the people that your business is going to depend on. And I'll get real for a moment. One of the most exciting areas I saw, mobile gaming, right? Most customers never buy anything from their online game. They download the little app from the App Store. They're never buying anything virtual. They'll play it. They'll look at some ads. If you do buy, for one particular company, they found out the average relationship of somebody that buys is about $130. And so they start off very easily. All right, segmenting our customers. Ones that don't buy, ones that do buy. And if you buy, we're getting $100 from you, and we're happy about that. Now then they use lifetime value. Let's go a little bit deeper in it. They find that some of their most valuable customers are spending upwards of $80,000 to $90,000 a year. I don't have any of these friends. I don't have anybody that spends $80,000 on virtual anything. At least I hope not. Maybe I have some friends with a hidden addiction. That's possible. But now all of a sudden I say, all right, you have a customer that's going to spend $80,000, a customer that's going to spend $100, a customer that's going to spend $0. All three of them call you up at the same time. Who do you pick up? You're building a creative or a new feature. Who are you going to listen to? Well, of course, you're going to listen to the people that are giving you the most value, just as you would if you needed advice. You'd go to your friends and family. You wouldn't go to the Uber driver. Maybe some people would. Uber drivers can have some good life advice. But this is what it starts to enable. And I don't like to complicate it anything more than that, because once people realize that you can predict the lifetime value and you can do it for individual customers, then it's all about those relationships. Really valuable, really not. How do you want to respond from your experience side to make that real?
So people listening are saying, oh, I love that. Yes. How? How do I actually go and determine that lifetime value? Where to spend my heartbeats, time, and energy?
Yes. I say the first thing is just find a reputable company if you don't want to do it yourself. If you want to do it yourself, you know what, Stacy? We may link, if we have the ability to do that, when we promote this, links of where you can do it yourself. Right? The hardest, most technical part of it, not overly difficult. There's worse things. I'm sure AI can do it now for you too. But what it comes out with practically, what does this look like? A spreadsheet where the first column is the names or the emails or the IDs of your customers, and the second column is their lifetime value. Now you take that list and all of a sudden organize that and just rank it all together. You'll have your top customers on the top and your lower customers on the bottom. Then you'll know who they are. And then the next question, this is a next step, and this is actually the fun step, is I would challenge all the listeners to say, all right, you did all the hard work. Yeah, that was it. You did all the hard work. Now here's a question. What do you think, because you're going to know your customers best, what are your hypotheses of what drives great customers? So some may say, people that use a coupon code aren't great customers. All right, well, you have that spreadsheet. First column is your ID, second column is your lifetime value. Add a third column. Did they use a coupon code on their first purchase? Yes or no? Split those customers up and say, what's the average lifetime value of people we acquired with coupon codes versus not? You'll probably see it was lower for people with coupon codes. Do they subscribe to my email newsletter? What product category did they buy from? Do they return a lot of products? Each of those starts giving you a profile. And again, this is as intuitive as it gets. And this is why dating metaphors work so well. You date a whole bunch of people, and then you're like, I get along with these people. I don't get along with those people, right? There's some people I'm just like, we're not going to get along. You do the same thing with your customers, but now you're just asking the questions. Was it how I met them? But was it what they liked about me? And that starts to give you a profile to say, where do you want to lean in a little bit more for your business to bring in those better people?
Going back before to people who come to your website, it's hard to always know who are they and obviously you can retarget them. But people listening may be thinking, okay, how do I use this spreadsheet for the people that I don't even know?
Yes. I do two things. One is I accept the reality of sample sizes, which is to say, if I were to go into a bar and there's 100 people there, look, I'd like to know everything about everybody there, but that's really creepy. And I'm not going to pay the bartender to tell me. And so I have two options. Either one is I go with the people that I know, or two is I build enough incentives or systems so that I can meet everybody else. And so for some businesses, they're only measuring customers when they buy. Well, that's great. Well, can you entice people earlier on to get to know them? Can you build those? And sometimes it's market research. Sometimes it's offering some type of promotion or something, but not just using it as a marketing channel to blast them with messages, but really saying, hey, this is before you buy. Can I get to know you? I just went through the car buying process. I would have loved to see that more, where everybody's interested when you know the vehicle you want to buy and you're ready to put down money. Very few really try to get to know you online to say, hey, you're in this process. You may not see a car from us yet. You may not even know you want to buy this brand, but we want to get to know you. And so it really depends on how early you push that introduction. Do you wait for them to say hi? Or do you go out there and try to say hello yourself?
Great advice. AI can't avoid the conversation. Going back to segmenting your high-valued customers and those that are lower value, they'll leave you quickly for the competition. How do you use AI both to identify who they are, but then also service them? Like, in other words, if someone's a really high-paying customer, might you provide more human support than the lower-paying, love them, leave them customer? What's your view?
All right, my view is twofold. One is whenever somebody comes to me and says, we need an AI strategy for our customers, I say, no. In fact, that's the worst thing you could do. Instead, you have to say, this is our customer strategy. Where are the parts where AI can help us more? And you started to get into an example, and it's a prime reason why I bring up this differentiation. I work with a lot of companies who are like, okay, this is the era of AI. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, what we need is an AI chatbot on our site. That will reduce customer calls and everything else. I was like, all right, how many people have ever called up a company and have said, I really hope I get a phone menu. I can't wait to navigate to people. How many people have been frustrated just yelling, agent, give me somebody? I know a few of the systems that measure profanities and they use it to escalate. But, Discover credit cards for a time, they may still do this, made it their value proposition. When you call us, you get a person. Now, I'm not saying you go all the way where you always have a physical person on the phone, but I'm saying this. If your goal is to go out there and to say, we need to prioritize and make sure our high value customers always get through to a person right away. And one of the ways we enable that strategy is allowing AI to reach our low value customers. I'm on board with that. I think that's perfect. But I think it's a little bit faulty to say, well, we're just going to put AI between us and our customers because AI is popular. And so I always start with to say, look at what your customer needs are. And then go to all those companies pitching AI products and say, can you help us address these real customer needs first? That's a good solution. And if they can't, you walk away and you move on to your next opportunity. But don't be saying, if you lack that customer experience side, you'll just throw the AI on top of everything. And that's just erecting more walls between you and your customers, which you don't need. And so I just say that, build your customer experience strategy first. Bring that to the table of AI companies and say, how do you help me deliver better experience to my customers in the way that I know best? Instead of saying, can you put a chatbot on my site? Because nobody wants it and nobody likes it. And I don't care who's promoting it to be like, look, all the costs we reduced. This is where I'll take a stand on it. Yes, you're reducing a lot of short-term costs at the expense of your long-term relationships. They're just not measuring it.
Hence, no lifetime value. No lifetime.
They know lifetime value. They just don't want to bring it up because who the hell's going to buy their chatbot? No one's ever given me a study that says, because of our chatbot, our customers are happy. The closest I've seen is we're closed and it's a channel, it's an alternative, which again is buys into the strategy. If you're not able to pick up for your customers and you're saying, we need a way to take care of our customers after hours. Chatbots are cool. But if the goal is we want to put another wall between us and the relationships we're trying to build, no.
Yeah. All right, leadership. We know that customer experience is delivered by your internal teams, and leadership has such a huge role. What is the best advice that you've received or given to help people, enable them to deliver excellence?
So if you only look at this for metrics, because this is where we started, if you're saying we have short-term, immediately actionable ROI metrics. I spent $1 on marketing, I got $1 back in revenue. Everybody in your company will love you for that. It's actionable, it seems responsible, it's accountable. And then you come in and you start saying, hey, we want to do this lifetime value thing where we're going to invest today and customers will come back tomorrow. You already see the difficulty in these arguments, which is where a lot of companies get stuck, because it seems like you're betting on the future more than today. And for people, especially on the finance side, they want to hold you accountable. And so what I say is, the best advice is if you go down this path, if you go down this journey, bring other people with you. Don't expect them to know what you know or see what you see about customers. But just as we've been talking about the importance of these relationships, sometimes what I do, this is the most simple and compelling way I have to describe lifetime value to a CFO, is what I'll do is I'll put up a list of all the customers, or I'll take a segment and I'll be like, here's 50 of our customers. And each customer is going to spend, Neil's going to spend 500, Stacy's going to spend 1,000. And then I put a column alongside and I say, here's how much time we give them or how much money we spend. And because we're not segmenting by lifetime value, it's usually equal. We spend the same amount of marketing dollars on every customer that's interested. And it's usually at that point that a CFO will say, wait, why are we doing that? Clearly, Stacy, you're more valuable than Neil. Why are we spending the 20 cents on ads on Stacy, not Neil? I say, oh, because we don't measure that way. We measure how much money they gave us today, not how much money they're going to give us in the future. And then the light bulb goes off and they want to say, well, how can we adjust those processes? And so it's more around involvement, bringing them into the story and the relationships, because they'll have that same intuition regardless of their function. Finance, operations, go-to-market. They all know the importance of relationships. You're just making it accessible for them by not saying, here's a solution, but here's what we're seeing. We know people are different. What do you think we should now do as our function? And that's the easiest way to build that bridge and make this real in your company.
Yes, and I wish that we had another half hour, because I would go so deep into the concept of journey management and journey mapping, because that's where you break those silos and the domino effects that happen, because instead people just stay in their own tunnels and, not enough time. But
we'll do this again sometime, Stacy, I promise.
We need to. Last question, two last questions. One is, what do you want people to remember? What's the key takeaway?
The key takeaway is that oftentimes technology separates us from our customers. I want them to remember that the relationships and what you already know with your customers is enough. It's requiring technology to be obligated to those needs, not the other way around. People come to me and say, I can't do customers because I need a CRM system and I need to learn and integrate a CRM system. I say, no, the CRM system should integrate with what you intuitively know. Best companies I know start with that leadership, and that leadership is defined by people who say, I know our customers. I know I've listened to what they need. Technology, do it for me. AI, do it for me. And so if anything else, have confidence that you already have all the skills necessary. That's the reason why people listen to this podcast, is because they already respect and understand the value of customers and those experiences. So you already have everything you need. What we're doing really is knocking down those walls and pushing back on the technology that separates us from those people. So have that confidence that you already know what's going on. I'm just giving you permission to use it.
Ooh, so good. We got to go back to basics in essence, right? And my favorite question, our last one, Neil, if you could go back in time to your younger 20-year-old self, based on what you know now that you didn't know then, what would you tell the younger you?
Younger me, I'd say, Neil, go become a farmer or a poet or something. No, anything besides marketing. No. It's not that I don't love marketing. It's I understand the pain that marketers go through. You know, I'll tell you one last story, Stacy, if I may, if we have just a few minutes. I'll leave you all with one story. There was a very good Googler I worked with who, skipping a lot of his background, ended up very distinguished as a PhD in physics. So he was a literal rocket scientist coming out of MIT. And he ended up working in marketing with me. And I was just kind of like, I'm like, why? Why would you come from being a rocket scientist to getting people, as I joke, to click on pictures? And he said, well, Neil, he's like, this is harder. It's like, this is harder. He's like, we know in our first year of university classes, we know gravity's a constant, mass is a constant. You tell me how high you want something thrown into orbit, I can tell you how much energy will get you there. He's like, to build a customer relationship, how many visits or how many conversations until they're ready to buy your product? He's like, good luck. He's like, the thing he never understood was why marketers felt bad about it. And they didn't feel bad that they couldn't quantify everything down to 6 decimal points. And the reality is it never was meant or possible to be quantified. We're all human. The worst thing you do is pursue that area and to feel bad that you don't have that level of detail on your customers, because every step you go to saying, Neil, I want to reduce our relationship down to a single metric on a dashboard is a step you take away from saying, I really care, Neil, about who you are and the experience you're having with my brand. And so that always just gives me permission to say, I wish I knew that. When I was younger, I was like, the lack of math. I need more math, and then I'll be able to answer everything. And the older I get, I say, no. I say all of that is a false god. It's helpful. We don't like to waste money, but we need to start with customers first and then say, how does that technology help us get there?
What a mic drop. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your wisdom, and I'll have all of your social media and site and book in the show notes. So thank you. Appreciate you.
All mine. Thank you.